Oh, Canada. Whose game? Whose game? Mr. Justin Trudeau.
Okay.
We swept you. America, USA, USA, USA. All right. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, we got banned. Our stream got cut last time, so we had to restart. The USA beats Canada in the Olympics in hockey. Here's the best part. For both the men and women's, a complete sweep. Ladies and gentlemen, a complete sweep. My favorite part about this is that Mr. Justin Trudeau, we don't have to call him Prime Minister or whatever other garbageness that we used to have to call him. No, just regular old Justin Trudeau, peasant like the rest of us. He tweets out, not more than 2 days beforehand, "You can't take our country and you can't take our game." Sir, we took your game at both levels, male and female. USA wins hockey in overtime against Canada, 2-1. And shout out to the men's hockey team, and shout out to that post-game interview. Right, we got some people out there in the skiing be like, "Oh, I'm not really proud to be an American right now." No, USA men's hockey. Jack gets up there. He's like, "Yo, proud to be an American. Love my country. Let's freaking go." Canada, once again.
Too, so he's like lisping as he's saying, "I love being American." It's so legit.
He broke his tooth during the game. He got smashed in by another guy's like hockey stick. I don't even follow hockey that closely. I didn't even watch the game. I just watched the clips, and I know he won because suck it, Canada. Once again, the USA is better than you. Okay? Gosh, the arrogance here. Listen, if you're my Canadian friends, I love you to death. I love you to death. And if you're like, oh, you know, there are some people out there that are, you know, concerned about the whole 51st state stuff and the separation thing. I don't mean to downplay that, and I know there's some legitimate concerns there, but I just love the fact, that number one, our winners were proud to be Americans, and number two, that Justin Trudeau tweeted out 2 days earlier, "You can't take our country and you can't take our game." We took your game. All right, welcome back to the Deal Desk. What? Okay, that's coming up. Brayden, we got a good show here today. It is Monday. We've got basically the focus of today's show is going to be, and kind of here's what we got coming up for you, is around deal structure. Specifically, we're going to talk about Trump tariffs and the Supreme Court ruling and the impact that that's going to have not only on businesses, but as a leverage negotiation tactic when it comes to doing deals and negotiating for Trump. We want to pull that apart and break that down. We also have a couple other headlines, including we want to talk about the changes that we made to the content desk, which is now called the Deal Desk. So with that, let's go to headlines. Headline number one, in case you hadn't heard from the obnoxiousness of me at the beginning, the USA beats Canada in the Olympics in hockey, both the men and women's. And I think the appropriate is not just beats Canada, we swept Canada in the Olympics in hockey, both men and women. Great game, great competition. Shout out to the Americans and the Canadians. The Canadians, they put up a good fight, but shout out to the American team there for winning. We love winning, and I'm gonna be honest, the whole tweet of Trudeau tweeting out that the response by the White House I know some people are like, oh, it's not classy, right? How dare we have an administration that has some fun? But the response by the White House was to retweet the tweet with a a picture of a bald eagle grabbing a goose and shoving it into the underwater. And it was awesome. Actually, I don't think we would get trademark infringement for that, Braden. What do you think? Think you should risk it?
Let's send it. It's worth it for this
It's
one.
worth the risk. Did you watch the game, Braden?
I did not. I don't watch sports really, but I saw
Of course you
clips
don't.
of it, and I am so happy because I am not a fan of Justin Trudeau at all. So the fact that
He's just
we crushed him, I love Canadians, but the fact that we crushed him is very exciting to me.
Yeah, Canadians, all of our Canadian friends out there. I've got to find this thing. All of our Canadian friends out there, though, we love you, and we're fans of you as people. Don't get me wrong. Here it is. Ready? Let's hope. Let's hope we don't get this shut down. Look at this. Isn't this epic? You can't take our country. You can't take our game. And this is the White House. It's so awesome. It's so awesome. Oh my goodness. That was good. So that happened. I have followed none of the Olympics other than that, and this one free skater chick who won gold. Do you see this, Braden?
I saw some. Well, it was a dude. It was the dude who I saw he was like super high, and then he got very low in the ranks because I think he fell, which was a huge upset. But he was crushing it. And then I did see a little bit of a girl skater as well, who I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't even know her name. All I know is that she won gold, and they said when they interviewed her, it was like, I came here to show my art. And when they asked her about the pressure of the Olympics, she's like, you would have had to tell me, you'd have to tell me what the pressure of the Olympics would be like, because I didn't feel any of it. I just came to perform. And it was like this reminder of, like, generally speaking, or, you know, when you're just an artist, when you're just fantastic at your craft, and when you do it for the love of it and you're the best at it, there's no pressure. You just go out there and execute. And I was very happy for her. I know nothing about her, like literally nothing. Honestly, I don't even know what country she was from, if it was the United States or not. But I remember watching that and being like, that's so cool. Because granted, don't get me wrong, you have to have some talent. You have to have some things that you were born with, some natural ability. But if you've got that gift and that skill set and the commitment and you love it, it is a beautiful thing. And her show, or her like presentation thing that she did, was insane. Like insane what she was able to do. So shout out to her. So that's the first headline. If anybody else has any other relevant updates about the Olympics, feel free to let us know. Headline number 2 is the Supreme Court rules Trump tariffs are illegal. This was crazy. We're going to get into this more today, but a quick overview of the story is that basically the Supreme Court in a 6-3 decision struck down all tariffs imposed under the IEEPA, or the International Emergency Economics Power Act. So this invalidated reciprocal tariffs on most countries, the fentanyl/border security tariffs, the collection stops as soon as practicable tariffs, and this was the crazy part. Trump, being Trump, like, can we just appreciate for a second the fact that whether you like the guy or not, and like I understand why some people don't like him, I don't. It is wild that we get to live when this guy is our president. Like, what we get to witness out in the open with the greatest deal maker of all time, someone who just doesn't give a literal flying F. He just does what he wants to do. And when the narrative doesn't go his way or things don't go his way, he goes, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to keep going my way, and we're going to figure out how to win. And there's something that is pretty awesome about that. Granted, I happen to love his foreign policy. Not all of his social stuff, but, his foreign policy stuff. But his response was to immediately go and pivot to signing a new executive order raising tariffs by 10%. I mean, what a man. What a man. So we're going to talk about that coming up. We're going to spend a large majority of our show actually talking about that when it comes to the details of it, because there's refunds potentially happening, and like, who gets those refunds? Is it the businesses? Is it the consumers? How would you even track that? Who's going to enforce it? But really, the dynamics that we're going to look at are what this means in terms of deal making and in leverage and in negotiating from a Trump perspective and on the world stage. Okay, next headline is Getty Images and the Shutterstock merger. If you are not following this story, back in January, we're not going to spend much time on this one, but just a quick heads up. Back in January, the Getty Images and Shutterstock announced that they were going to be doing a merger. This was back in January, I think it was January 9th, if I'm not mistaken. It was in January of this year. In January of 2025. Last year, not of this year. They announced that they were planning on merging. Now, the interesting part about this is that Shutterstock is a huge company and a major part of online media images, but also so is Getty Images, right? And so you have these two massive giants that want to go and merge. When it comes to doing deals like that and mergers like that, this is not as simple as just like, hey, we're the two parties and we agreed to, come to this agreement and we're merging, right? You've got antitrust laws and, monopoly issues and then, government regulations and hurdles that you have to go and get by. Well, the interesting part about this, and we're going to be following this story, we're not going to talk any more about it here today, but just as an update, is that the DOJ, the Department of Justice, granted an unconditional antitrust clearance for the merger, which is a pretty big deal considering it is an unconditional antitrust approval. So they're able to go and do it and merge. The last hurdle actually has to do with the EU over and what they're doing over in Europe. But as that continues to unfold, we will keep an eye on it because when it comes to deals, that is a big deal with negotiating as well. Okay, and then the final news of today that we will talk about as we kind of transition into the rest of today is that the Content Desk, our show, announced, or we're announcing now, we changed our name from the Content Desk to the Deal Desk. And let's spend some time on this. Welcome to the show, by the way. My name is Josh Forty, if we've never met, if you've never been here before. So last week, here's a little bit of an update, okay? Last week, we launched this show. And I'm going to pin my video here. Braden, I'll bring you back on here in just 1 second.
Perfect.
Last week, we announced the launch of the Content Desk. And the purpose of the Content Desk was to create a news desk or an outlet, a resource for the overlooked content economy and the business owners and creator-adjacent service providers there, bringing relevant news and opportunities and information, business sense to them. Because I believe that there is this large emerging class of people that are business owners that are using content to grow their business, but they are not being spoken to from like a lot of the narrative of people like teaching content. It's like, become a content creator, right? It's like, no, I'm a business owner. I run a real business, real services, real skill set, and I'm using content. I'm not a creator first, I'm a business owner first. Like that group of people, and then also the group of people which we would call the content or the creator adjacent service providers or service providers. So think the people that are one level removed from the creators. So Mr. Beast is a creator, all the people that service him, right? You have your editors and your writers and your scripters and your talent managers. You've got marketers and funnel builders, all these people. And this is a big class of people. And the combination of these two people are kind of this overlooked group of people. I fall into this very much so. We're kind of the professional outliers, right? We take responsibility for our life. We're building a business that gives us autonomy and freedom. We want to do good, honest work, get ahead in life, provide really good, valuable services to others. We also have vision and a mission. We believe that our business fuels that. And we're not dramatic enough for the Hollywood, mainstream narrative. And we're not really local because we're online, and so we're kind of everywhere. And we're also not, rich enough to or have enough fake dollars and money to pick up in like tech news. But there's a big portion of us. And so it's like, okay, the Content Desk was really focused in on creating a kind of the ESPN, the Bloomberg kind of combination for those. Well, here's the thing we realized quickly is right at the beginning, we were debating between calling it the Content Desk or calling it the deal desk. Now, you guys didn't know that, but that was kind of the debate internally back and forth. And the thought process was, okay, we're going to call it the content desk. We think it's a little bit broader, a little bit more relevant, maybe a little bit more brandable or positioning. And the thought process is that we would be able to cover more topics because we weren't really sure how much news we were going to be able to make relevant and applicable to this group right away as we were kind of getting started out. And then long term, we thought that had a better play. Well, I will tell you this. I have been in the online space for a decade now. I have built several brands. At one point, we grew and managed about 10 million followers online. I had a 100 million follower network. I had a podcast at one point and a show called Think Different Theory, which we grew to about 1.5 million downloads or so. And so, this is kind of my wheelhouse. I thought that was the direction that we wanted to go. Well, from Monday of last week when we launched till now, till Friday of last week, I should say, those 5 episodes, I learned so much about our industry, about the news that was going on, about where opportunities were. And I probably spent 2 or 3 hours a day, every day, probably more than that actually, but 2 or 3 hours a day doing research on the news and the narratives and the things that were going down and where the opportunity was. And what we learned was that by Thursday of last week, 4 days in, is that if we want to make it relevant to you and we want to make it relevant to the listener, that there actually has to be almost like an angle, like a specific way that we approach this. And my goal with this, and our goal with the show, is to align your interests with my interests, or our interests with your interests, meaning that if I win, you win. And what became very apparent to us was that where the opportunity was and how we go about doing that was focusing specifically on deals, deal flow, deal opportunity, deal structure. And with content, as we did research and prep and kind of thought long-term about where this was going, it became apparent that was kind of trending towards news clippy, right? Content for the sake of content, trends with content, having to stay up with content trend, hacks and staying relevant there, and really just like digital landscape as a whole. But again, we have a very specific audience and a very specific group of people that we're trying to serve. And we have a very specific reason that we're trying to do it. And that group of people are deal makers, right? Those business owners and those service providers that are adjacent to creators. It's like really, we're in the business of doing deals. You do deals whether let's say you're in real estate, you're doing deals. If you're working with a client and you're negotiating a contract, that's a deal. If you're investing in something, that's a deal, right? If you're negotiating something with a creator, that's a deal, or a contractor, that's a deal. And really, we are really deal focused in many ways. That's my background, that's my knowledge, that's what I do best. In fact, I have a business called Get Paid, Be Free, where we literally work with service providers and we teach them and work with them and help them get bigger deals with better clients, charging better pricing and pricing structure, offer structure, and negotiating deals. And so the deal focus just made a lot of sense. And so as we started to think through this, it was like, okay, well, our long-term vision is we want to create a place where deals come, where if a deal is going down, we're reporting on it, where if someone is going to announce a deal or an acquisition or something, this is the place where they're going to come and do it. And so we're reporting on deals. We have the insider scoop on deals. We do the narratives and the breakdowns on deals. And we have as many deals as possible coming across our desk. That is beneficial, obviously, to us because then we get to see all the deals and have opportunities and kind of get first access, if you will, in many ways. But it's also beneficial for us and beneficial to you because what we want to do is be able to partner people and be like, oh, so-and-so is doing a deal. Here's where the opportunity is. So-and-so is doing a deal. These people should be together. Or if you're in this group over here, you should be over here because there's deal opportunities to make. Because we believe very strongly, a core belief of ours is that if you do a deal, the deal should be a win-win, that both parties can win or all parties can win in a deal. There does not have to be a win-lose in every scenario. There can always be a way where everybody goes about winning. And so we wanted to go and create that place. And so when we looked at headlines, it's like, I'll bring Braden on here right now, or back on. but because Braden, I mean, you saw the amount of research and stuff that we were doing. It kind of becomes really easy to just focus on these huge headlines of like, so-and-so raises this much money, or this AI company does this, or this company does this. And it's like, it just almost felt like, yes, there was lots of news, but it wasn't very tangible. It wasn't very relevant, and it didn't really allow our avatar, our audience of deal makers and business owners that leverage content to take anything away from it in an immediate, actionable way. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. And the cool thing too is you're the best I've ever met ever with creating deals, especially like in this industry. And you've done how many deals have you done? You've done a crazy amount.
Oh gosh, thousands. I mean,
thousands. And then that's
I
not
probably
even
helped with
including,
tens of thousands. Yes.
yeah, your clients as well. So you've seen the frameworks, you've seen the psychology behind deals, and like for me, that's like a skill set I wanna get better at and I wanna master. And seeing your perspective on deals and what's going down in the industry is going to be so helpful, because you know the psychology, you know the structure behind it, you know, maybe even like the positioning and the frames that people are using for approaching the deal, why they framed it this specific way, and all of that is going to be so helpful for me, because I want to, like, deals are how you make money. If you're not making money unless you're making deals, so I'm super stoked about it.
Well, I appreciate that. And also, I think that, you know, relevant for the listener here, if you're watching, it's like, okay, yes, I have a tremendous amount of experience in deals, but also like I want to continue to get better and grow, right? I want to do bigger deals and bigger deals and bigger deals. Ryan Serhant did a $200 million deal. I'm like, man, I want to do $1 million deals. I want to do $10 million deals. I want to do $100 million deals. And by the way, like real estate is great, but I'm talking not just real estate deals. I'm talking about business deals, buying and selling businesses, buying and selling services. I think what's really relevant to the listener and, you know, someone that would be watching this is like you make deals with everyone and everything in your life. You make deals with yourself. You make deals with your spouse. You make deals with your clients. You make deals with your kids. You make deals with your personal trainer. You make deals with God, right? You make deals with the government, because, you know, you hear contract, welcome to a deal, right? You hear a deal. Welcome to a deal. You hear negotiations, welcome to deal. You say, I'm going to commit to, welcome to, that's a deal, right? Anything that involves an agreement, that involves, hey, I am committing to doing this, or this is what I'm doing, and this is what the other party is doing, or hey, this is the agreement in place where there's structure. That is deal making. And it is arguably the most, or one of the most relevant skill sets in your life. And so for me, learning deals and learning sales, but more than just selling, deal structure, because the thing that I like about deal structure versus just sales is that sales often implies I have something to sell and it is my job to sell it to you, whether it's best for you or not, or take it or leave it as it is, right? There is implied very little wiggle room. I oftentimes think of sales as like a product. Now, I would disagree with that definition, but for the masses, that's really what most people would think. And so with deals and negotiating, this allows us to create win-win scenarios. And in sales creates win-lose scenarios oftentimes, right? Whereas deals allow us to create win-win scenarios throughout. And so as someone who, the rest of my...
differ, Josh? Like how is that the thing, like, different from each other? If you could expand on that really quick.
Yeah, with sales, you have, like I said, a predetermined, product or price or, things of like that nature, right? It's kind of like set, and it's my job to show you why you want it and to like basically fit it into your life. You're the one that has to adjust and tweak, right? And oftentimes I'm the winner, or the person that's selling it is the winner because you take what we want and there's no room for negotiation, right? Whereas gotcha. with deals, you have the ability to negotiate back and forth, where we'll adjust our side, you'll adjust your side. If there's multiple people involved, it's not just a singular transaction or set things. There's a lot more room for negotiation oftentimes. Again, we're speaking broadly here, but that's really the difference there. And also with deals, again, broadly speaking, you think relationships, you think you're going to have to deal with this person ongoing. You think clients, in order to make deals work and be profitable, oftentimes they're higher prices than traditional products or selling is. And so while sales and deals go very closely together, they go hand in hand. For a helpful way to think about it is sales is some preset thing that you're selling, and the buyer has to ultimately be the one that sacrifices if a sacrifice is made. Whereas with deals and negotiation, you have the ability for both people to create a win-win scenario with that. And so the deal desk really focuses on creating a place where the deals go down. And our goal is to first bring relevant information around, like smart, relevant information for business owners and deal makers on deals that are happening. So if there are big deals happening, like, man, I'll tell you what, when SpaceX and XAI merged, like, we're still going to cover that deal. I know it already happened, but don't worry, we're going to break that down, right? That would be one. But also when, maybe when smaller deals are going down, maybe in specific industries, or even just interesting deals that I think would be relevant for people to know are happening. These types of deal structures are winning right now, this type of pricing, these types of, terms, to bring you that information so you know what's happening, what's in the know. Like, if you're trying to make decisions about your business, if you're trying to figure out how to structure an offer, if you're trying to figure out, doing market research on the industry as a whole right now, the online business and deal-making space, this is the place you come. If, how many times have you been trying to do market research for your business or trying to know what's going on in the industry, and you're going to Google or ChatGPT to try to figure it out because there's no one reporting on it or no one bringing information for this industry on it? That is the problem that we're solving, or that is the gap that we're filling. So first, relevant news and information. Secondly, though, is then exposing or revealing, breaking down deal structure. One of the things that's really helpful with the show is you have leverage. LOL. We'll talk lots and lots about leverage. But when it comes to getting information and when it comes to having access to things that maybe you wouldn't have access to on your own, having the leverage of a show and having a name can get you into doors that the average person couldn't get into. And so being able to do research and find information and break down, okay, this is what went down, this is how they did it, understanding different types of deal structure. I know quite a bit about deals, and I still probably only know this much in the grand scheme of, all the different potential ways there are to do deals. And so I'm learning. That's why it's going to work. I want to master this. We're going to continue to grow into this, and our goal is to create the place where it's like, first, what's happening, but then how is it structured so that you know how to structure deals, and you know where there's profit margin, and you know where there's opportunity there. And then the third leg of that would be, okay, where is there deal opportunity now? Very similar to the content desk and what it was, but again, just a deal-focused narrative around it, because deals are the way that we make the vision of the content desk relevant, applicable, and very profitable to you. And so therefore, we changed the name from the content desk to the deal desk. And so that is kind of the vision of that moving forward. We're going to probably shift a little bit more into, rather than just like telling you what we're doing, just doing it. But since we did change the name of this a week afterwards, which we had incredible feedback, by the way. Thank you so much for all the listeners the first week and the feedback we got. We got some really great engagement, and from people on Facebook, on YouTube, on X, and on Facebook, on YouTube, and on X. So thank you. But wanted to paint you a little bit of the vision of that moving forward, why we changed the name to the Deal Desk. And if you want to do deals, if you want to know where opportunity is, if you want to know how deals are structured, if you want to be entertained, if you want, just some good business relevant takes on stuff around deals and how to make money, this is the place for you. So with that, I think that covers everything there. Although I must say, guys, Mr. Braden here, he's a smart dude. I'm glad he works for me. Braden.
Thank you. Not all the time, but thank you. I appreciate that.
Huh?
Not always smart, but I like the glasses kind of help me out a little bit.
Man, I don't know, man.
Listen,
the very first time that I knew you were like, wait, hold on. You're smarter than maybe people would give you credit for, type of deal, was you and I were down in Mexico, actually. And we were at an event, And you were not working for me at the time, but we had known each other. I actually hired you back in the day for a friend of mine, and you were working for him. And this topic of religion came up. And which, by the way, you're like, Josh, deals, religion. Man, all religion is deals, man. You studied Christianity, you studied Jesus, you studied the Old Testament and the New Testament, and basically God makes a deal with his people, and they don't hold up in their end of the agreement, so God goes, all right, we're going to fulfill that deal, I'm going to make a new deal, and I'm going to make it with myself, all right? There's so much deal structure with this. But on that topic, you had made this claim, and I'm not going to get into the details of it now, but I was like, dude, you're definitely wrong, right? It was kind of like crazy what you were claiming. And you're like, yeah, well, I think, most of the Church of America is wrong. I think that, so-and-so is wrong. And I'm like, okay, these are outrageous claims for you to be making. They're so outrageous that I will listen to what it is that you have to say. And you gave me this book, and we ended up going back and forth. And it's the first time that someone has changed in a very long time, that someone has changed a core part of my belief system around what the Bible was saying about a topic. And, you win once and it'll catch your attention. It's like somebody beats me once on religion and my philosophy and my religious beliefs. But it's happened like 3 times, and it's kind of annoying. Like, you're the only person that has multiple wins on, against me when going head to head. And it's props to you. And so when I hired you, you came in, you've done a great job for the business, you've been helping us, and you said we should call it the deal desk. That's what you said right at the beginning. And I am never wrong. And even when I'm right or wrong, I am right. And so I said, no, the content desk is where we're headed. And we launched the content desk. And so a week later, I had to eat my words. So hats off to you, sir. You saw the vision. And it's not really a change. The name change is not really a change of the vision at all. It's just a correction, I think, of a refinement of what we were already doing with it. But you're smart, dude, and I appreciate you. And we're glad to have you here. And yeah,
you are very smart too, and I appreciate just the banter we have back and forth and all the conversations we've had. And you've changed my mind probably more times than I can count on both hands. So I'm just trying to work my way up to where you're already at.
All right, Mike.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we'll get into that reference later for all my suit fans out there. All right, so I think that brings us to the main portion of the show here, which would be the Trump tariffs. This is super interesting. Okay, I want to read the breakdown of this, but I want to frame this up though for a second, because we're about to talk about Trump and the president, and he's the president and whatnot, and Trump has a narrative, and the media has a narrative of who Trump is and what he does. And what I'd like to focus on, and where we're going to focus a majority of our time, not only like today when talking about him, but just in general whenever we're talking about Trump and the politics, is primarily through the lens of deals. And Trump wrote this book called The Art of the Deal. And I've read that book. There is perhaps not a better deal maker, perhaps not a deal maker that does deals on a bigger stage more publicly than Donald Trump. And his tactics are not insane. He's actually laid out all of what he's doing in his book. It's pretty predictable, but it is a masterclass to watch. And so as we go through this, whatever your thoughts are on Trump, whether you think he is, the devil, or whether you think he is, God's gift to mankind, he's not either of those things. But regardless, put those aside, put the politics aside for a second, put the narrative of what the media thinks, wants you to think of him, and look at him through the lens of him being a negotiator and a deal maker, because he has done it his entire career. And one of the big things about deals and deal making is that you need leverage. And we'll talk more about this, but leverage is, I would argue, it's the most important part of a deal. He who has the most leverage oftentimes wins. Now, you can be stupid and open your mouth, and you can, lose that leverage or do things that would kill the deal outside of leverage. But as long as you're not stupid, He who has the most leverage wins. And this headline, I was actually at the gym when I saw this break the other day, was that the Supreme Court ruling in a 6-3 decision struck down all tariffs imposed under the IEEPA, the International Emergency Economics Power Act. In a nutshell, basically, the Supreme Court comes along and says, hey, look, you're not authorized to make these tariffs, impose these tariffs, okay? It is illegal. Now, it says that the court found that the IEEPA's grant of authority to regulate and importation does not include the power to impose tariffs, emphasizing that the power to impose tariffs is very clearly a branch of taxing power reserved for Congress under Article 1 of the Constitution. So let's back up here for a second. Because why was Trump putting tariffs on in the first place? Well, if you want someone to get someone to do what you want them to do, whether they like you or not, you need leverage. And so Trump runs on this platform. He ran on it in his first term, and he ran on it in his third term, or his second run and his third run, and then now in his second term, was, hey, America's getting ripped off, right? And all these, we're losing money. All these other countries are getting rich off of us. We have these big, massive trade deficits, and we want to bring the power back to the United States. So Trump gets into office, and from my perspective, and I think, from the narrative that pretty much anyone could observe this, Trump learned some things from his first term, and he's like, okay, we're going to move quick, we're going to move fast, and we're going to show people that we mean business. Now, did Trump know that potentially what he did with tariffs, potentially the Supreme Court was going to strike down? For sure he did, right? He's not an idiot. But Trump also knew that it's going to be, we're a year into his term before we're going to get a ruling on it, and he can get a lot done with this power. And so Trump goes in and says, I need to establish my dominance. I need to take massive action very swiftly when it comes to foreign policy and the economy. And we need to put ourselves in a position where I'm in control and people will do what I say, because Trump loves power. I believe that the mistake that people make when they look at the tariffs is that they look at the tariffs through a singular or only the first order principle of consequence lens. They think that the reason that Trump was doing these tariffs was because he wanted economic power, or because he wanted to get the U.S. to be profitable again in the trade wars. And it's like, kinda, yeah, that was a thing that he wanted, but Trump's the president of the United States, so he's got 4 years. And if you've got 4 years in an office that you're going to be doing deals, then you want to be powerful, because he's going to be doing deals that are going to shape the world and the future for a long period of time. And he's got 4 years to do it. So Trump doesn't just need leverage once. Trump needs leverage a lot. And Trump needs leverage over and over and over again. What he needs is power and control. He needs people to where when he says something, they will do it. And if they don't willingly do it, he will click a button or do something and break them, force them to do it on a near instantaneous way about going about doing things. Now, I am not a fan of all of Trump's negotiating tactics. Generally speaking, my own personal opinion is that I like to create win-win scenarios. However, one of Trump's big statements, or big thing saying, was peace through strength. Basically, if we're the biggest, we're the best, right? We're the most powerful, then we will have peace because people know that we can blow them off the face of the map militarily. Well, that also applies when it comes to leverage, because imagine you walk into a meeting with somebody and that person says to you, hello, Sam. Let's say your name is Sam. Hello, Sam, or hello, Braden. Hello, Braden. We would like you to do this. Let's say we would like you to lower the cost of your services for us by 20%. Now, if that was another company that was maybe 2 or 3 times as big as you are, they're well known in the industry, but they're nobody crazy, right? They're big, but they're nothing crazy. How quickly are you going to be like, yes, I will gladly lower my prices by 20%?
No.
No, not at all, right?
Yeah.
Because while they may have the upper hand a little bit, you could fight this. There's a good chance that like you could delay it out. You're not going to go out of business because of this. If you say no, you're going to be able to negotiate back and forth. All right. Now, let's say you walk in and you are negotiating with Apple. Perfect example. Okay. Apple comes in, says, hey, Mr. Braden, we are now going to take 30% of all of your revenue of all transactions that come through your app on the App Store. You have 2 choices here. Either A, you say, no, I'm going to fight you, and they immediately kick you off the platform, or you say yes. Now, if you know that if you say no, that they just kick you off the platform, are you going to say no? No, you're not going to say no. Same thing is true when I actually got into a lawsuit with Apple. I had a show called Think Different Theory back in the day. We filed for a trademark. Long story short, Apple argued that we were infringing on their trademark of Think Different. My lawyer comes back to me. He goes, all right, dude, here are your options. You can either go to court against Apple and lose, or you can settle. It wasn't like you could go to court against Apple and see if we could make a case. It was like you can go to court and lose, or you can settle. And I'm like, I guess I'll settle. I guess we'll rebrand, right? That is strength. When someone has such an upper hand that they can instantaneously do something to you that is so significant that like it would essentially ruin you or wipe you out, you will take the alternative option and you'll do it before that other option, most of the time, even comes to the table. Trump wanted that as a negotiating tactic when it came to other countries, so that when he walked into Brazil or when he walked into China or when he walked into, you name the country, that he says, I'm going to impose this tariff on you, or we're going to do this deal, and that they're going to agree. And that's the easy way. Yay. Because they know that if they disagree or they say no, he just wipes them out economically. This is the tariffs were Trump's way to go about doing this. And so as you watch it through that lens, and you think about it through that lens, you go, okay, wait a second. Trump's tariffs weren't only about tariffs. The policy or economics and all those were a big part of his agenda. He needed to fix those things. But Trump's tariffs were about leverage, and not just leverage in one area, leverage over the course of his entire term. He needed a narrative, which we don't have time to get into today, but we'll talk a lot more about narratives. But in every deal, you got the narrative. So he needed a narrative as to why he was doing it, a way to sell this. And so to the American people, he says, hey, tariffs, why? Because America's been ripped off. We're going to get our money. We're going to get billions of dollars coming in from tariffs now. Other countries are going to pay for it. This is good for the American people. So Trump gets his leverage, and he gets his he sells the narrative. Are you with me? Yeah. So when the Supreme Court comes along and essentially basically says, hey, look, dude, what you just did is illegal. Was this a blow to the tariffs and the revenue created from tariffs? Absolutely. But was it also a blow to something much, much bigger? Yes. Trump's power and Trump's perceived authority. Because think about this. Imagine you are a salesperson and you go and you play hardball, or you posture. You come in, lay down the line, you're negotiating back and forth with the client, maybe multiple different clients. This is the way things are. And you like really put your identity around it. Like, it better be true, because that is where all your power comes from. In fact, the people that you're negotiating with kind of think you're a dick because of it, but you're getting your way. And then all of a sudden, the owner of your company comes along and says, actually, you can't do that. Are you worried about just the revenue that you're going to lose from it? No. You have all of your perceived authority and status and power and leverage, or a huge amount of it, taken away from you. Yes?
Yeah.
So that is what is really at stake here for Trump. And as we start to analyze this, like, it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out and what Trump's response to it is, because Trump does need leverage. Now, granted, he has used the leverage that he's gotten from tariffs so far to build up leverage in other areas, but this was a huge, huge negotiating tactic for getting countries to do what it is that they wanted. Now, how do we know that this was not just a blow to what the revenue, but also to Trump's power and Trump's perceived status and authority and who's in control? Well, because of Trump's response. Okay? Like, the reason I know, and you can know that, like, what we're talking about here is what's playing out and what's really at stake, is literally due to the way that Trump responded to it. Because immediately, this is, I'm going to read the details of this, okay? So here's what was struck down. And then we're going to talk about Trump's response, because it was so telling. Because if Trump didn't think it was a big deal, if Trump was like, oh, oops, okay, guess it wasn't, no problem, then his perceived status, his perceived authority, his power would not be at stake. But that's not what happened, all right? So here are the details. Here's what was struck down. All tariffs imposed under the IEEPA, including the Liberation Day reciprocal tariffs from April 2025 and the fentanyl/trafficking tariffs targeting Mexico, Canada, and China. The IEEPA was the first-time emergency law, or the IEEPA was a first-time emergency law used to impose tariffs. From 2026 through 2034, these tariffs would have generated an estimated $1.4 trillion in federal revenue. Here's what was not struck down. Non-IEEPA tariffs imposed under other statutory authorities, such as Section 232 and Section 301, are unaffected. This means that the tariffs on steel, aluminum, autos, and heavy trucks remain in place. The remaining Section 232 tariffs alone are estimated to raise $635 billion over the next decade. Now, here's what's interesting, because there's a whole refund thing in question, and if there's going to be a refund, which is fine. We'll talk about that briefly. But, like, this is what I'm curious about. I'm like, okay, when it comes to deals and negotiating, it's all about perception. Okay? Narrative is everything. What the Supreme Court basically said was, hey, Trump, you did all these tariffs. These ones, totally fine. These ones, not cool. Okay? Do you think that the media is going to fairly and accurately report that that is what happened? Oh, definitely some of Trump's... No, man. They're going to make it look like what Trump did across the board was illegal, that Trump is this, dictator who's got unchecked powers and yada, 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 yada. So narrative is incredibly, incredibly important. When you're doing a deal, whether we like it or not, whether you like it or not, the perception of control that you have, the perception of how prepared you are, whether or not you can deliver, the position that you're in, all of those things matter. So even though tariffs that will raise $635 billion over the next decade, those are all fine. Because this other half got struck down, the media is going to jump. So Trump has to signal that he's still in control. He has to signal that he is still in power, not the U.S. Supreme Court. Again, I don't care what your politics are. I don't care what you think of Trump. I'm just telling you what's happening from a negotiating and deal and power perspective here, okay? Because tomorrow, it'll be the next thing and the next thing. And then it'll be the next narrative that changes and the next narrative that changes and AI narrative. And then Elon and Doge was a narrative at one point. The narrative is going to change. But we have to look at what's happening from a negotiating and power perspective, okay? So what does Trump do? Well, Trump's response, this is so crazy. Like, I'm like, just brilliant from a perception standpoint. Within hours of the ruling, Trump pivoted to Plan B. Trump signed an executive order imposing a new 10% global tariff under Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974. The next day, so this all happened last Friday. So on Friday, Supreme Court rules 6-3, hey, these portions of the tariffs, illegal, you can't do it. That day, a couple hours later, Trump's like, executive order, 10%, okay? The very next day, he raised it, so this is Saturday, he raises it to 15%, which was the maximum allowed under the statute. Now, why didn't he just raise it to 10% or to 15% right away? Perception, narrative, okay? This guy goes, and when the Supreme Court, law of the land, says you can't do what you're doing, what does he immediately do? Does it anyway. He says, you take that away from me? Fine. I'm going to go over the top of your heads, executive order it into place. Because I'm in charge, you're not. And then, to add insult to injury and just to push it even further, the very next day, he goes, let me raise it a little more. All perception, all narrative. This is leverage, okay? Now, we can argue back and forth, oh, well, he didn't impose the same tariffs, or, oh, like it's not the same outcome or consequence. I'm like, you missed the point. It's not about the details. It's not about the logic. When it comes to deal making, it's about perception. And at the end of the day, the Supreme Court did not strike down all of Trump's tariffs. But people are going to think they did. And at the end of the day, Trump didn't really go over the top of the Supreme Court's head. But people are going to think that he did. And what Trump needs in order to put Trump's plan in place is Trump needs the perception of power and control. He needs to be seen as the unquestioned number one authority, ruler of the world, the most powerful person. Because when he controls that narrative and he can point to things around him to do that, he has leverage and massive, massive negotiating power with that. So, what does that mean for you and I? How can we take this and use this for our own deals? Well, I would say that when it comes to doing deals, no matter the type of deal that you do, and I think that we should all do win-win deals. I do believe that in almost every deal that possible, as long as the people that you are negotiating with are acting in good faith, that you can create win-win scenarios. But when you're negotiating a deal, you must find the narrative that you need to hold for you to create leverage. Because leverage is only as good as the perception required to use it. And so I'll give you the perfect example. When OpenAI, Trump comes into office, when OpenAI Trump was doing all these deals and announcing all this investments from this company and that company and America First and all that. OpenAI announces this really big funding round, or this really big partnership with a company. I can't remember who it was. Braden, look up OpenAI $500 billion partnership.
Is it NVIDIA? Oh,
no,
okay.
no. Hold on. If you look on I think what's her name? The Katie Miller podcast actually just retweeted about it again, I think. What was it? Let me see. Okay, here it is. Yeah, I found it. Okay. So this is fascinating. So this was back in February 21st of 2025. OpenAI announces the Stargate project. The Stargate project is a new company which intends to invest $500 billion over the next 4 years building new AI infrastructure for OpenAI in the United States. We will begin deploying $100 billion immediately. Now, Elon Musk, this is talking about perception here, okay? Elon Musk is also in the AI space, and at this time, Grok is a baby. It is not anywhere near where it is today. Elon joined the race late. OpenAI was far ahead at this point. So if Elon is essentially a non-player and he's now started and he's trying to, speed up, get in the race, be a big player, all that, then a $500 billion round or $500 billion partnership with his direct competitor looks like a pretty big deal and a pretty big blow for him and a pretty big win for his competitor, upon which he hates very, very, very much. Him and Sam Altman, not friends, okay? Now, leverage is only as good as the perception. Leverage is, as a negotiating tool, is only as good as the perception of it being real. So Elon has a lot of credibility, right? If Elon says something, people take him at his word. They trust him because Elon doesn't lie. At least, he has a really good track record of if he says something that is a trustworthy thing. And so Elon's not going to just make something up for his own gain. So Elon responds to that tweet and goes, they don't actually have the money. Now, this is crazy because that is a major claim, right? Especially when Elon shouldn't really have any insider information in it. Well, guess what? Turns out they didn't have the money and it's all falling apart and unraveling now. And so it's like, hey, if I'm going to use that as a negotiating tactic and all of a sudden Elon, who I might trust and I look at as a form of news, makes me doubt that what this company's saying is legit and I'm trying to do a deal with them, that's going to change my perception. And so if we're doing deals, whether that's with your client for $5,000 or $25,000, or you're doing a deal with, you're buying a house for $500,000 or $1 million, you're buying a company or a business, you're negotiating a contract, understand that A, you've got to have leverage. You've got to find where that leverage is. And B, understand that there is a narrative that is required, a perception that is required in order for you to effectively use that leverage. It doesn't mean that you don't have the leverage, or it doesn't mean that you don't have the ability to do that thing. It just means that if the perception isn't there, you can't use it as a negotiating tactic. And when it comes to creating win-win scenarios and doing deals back and forth, you need leverage. And people need to know that you're going to be able to deliver on what it is that you say you're going to go and deliver on. So it'll be interesting to see how this whole Trump tariff thing plays out. There's speculation that there's going to be some refunds, which I think it's into really messy territory because supposedly, where's it at? Between 160 and 175 billion dollars could be refunded or eligible for refund. But now it's like, well, who paid the tariffs? Was it the consumer? Was it the business owner? Right? So if these corporations paid it, then they get the money. But if they just passed on that cost to the taxpayer, to the consumer, shouldn't it go back to the consumer? Who knows? But we're going to find out as this all unravels. I do expect it to be messy, but I think there's a huge lesson to be learned here when it comes to negotiating. Trump cannot lose his perceived narrative. And right now, given all of Trump's flaws and given all the messiness that's going on, Trump is, without a doubt, perceived as the most powerful person in the whole world, and that he has essentially unchecked powers, and it's clear that he does not want to lose that regardless of what the Supreme Court hearings or the Supreme Court rules. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. All right, that is all for today. We started a little bit late because we got shut down due to infringement on that USA video. We'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Mountain Time, every day. We've got a good week this week, Braden, a really good week. And if you want to learn more about deal making and sales, negotiations, offer structures and all that, we've got an event coming up. I'm not going to go into the details of that right now. We'll announce more of that tomorrow. But we're doing an event. We got rented out a golf course up here by my house. We've got some clients flying out, probably 25 or 30 spots or so where people are flying in. We're spending 3 days going into a lot of the stuff and how to make it applicable in businesses, which will be really fun. So if you're interested in that, be on the lookout or hit us up. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Here's your 24-hour move. We like to end the show with what you can do for the next 24 hours. go make a list of all of your current deals that you are either negotiating or that you will be negotiating soon. Maybe they're up for renewal. Maybe you've got a client that you're about to sign. Maybe you've got a client or a potential deal that a client or deal that you are currently negotiating, a prospect that you're negotiating with. Make a list out of all those and then find where is your leverage and then what narrative currently is in place that is allowing you to use that leverage. Because like there is one, whether you realize it or not, right? One of my, the funniest things to me and I'll kind of end with this thought is like, people want to think, oh, that's not how I do business. Oh, I don't do things that way. I don't like to negotiate that way. Or that's not how I'm like, you don't get a choice. That's just how it works. And if you don't do it, it means you have no leverage, which means you have no say in the deal whatsoever, which means you have no power and no control over the deal, over your income, over your life. And so start studying how you're acting. Start studying where you have leverage, where you're using it, what narrative is being put out there, because you're putting one out there whether you realize it or not. All right, that's all for today. Oh, there is one last thing. We want to analyze your deal structure. That won't be this week, but we will get into it to where you'll be able to submit deals. We'll have call-in Q&A. We're getting the phone lines and stuff set up right now to where you can submit, call in, and we can break down deal structure with you. So these episodes will tighten up a bit, and that is coming as well. All right, we're live every day on X and on YouTube, and for now on Facebook. So subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye.
See you.